an easy way to learn English. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soft English Podcast, an easy way to learn English.
Hi there. It's really nice to have you with us again.
Today, we're going to talk about something that quietly follows us all, time. And maybe more specifically, how time shapes change in our lives.
Time and change. That already feels a little big, but also very personal.
It does. I think we all feel time passing, but we don't always stop to think about what it's actually doing to us.
Yes. Sometimes it feels gentle. Sometimes it feels almost violent.
That's true. It can feel like a soft current, or like a wave that pulls you somewhere you didn't plan to go.
So today, we'll just sit with that idea, slowly, and see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, let's begin.
When you think about time, what's the first feeling that comes up for you?
Honestly, awareness. A kind of quiet awareness that nothing stays the same. Not even the parts of me that I once thought were permanent.
I relate to that. I used to believe my personality was fixed. Like, this is who I am, end of story.
Right, as if identity were a solid object.
Exactly. But over the years, I've realized that identity feels more like a river. It looks stable from far away, but if you step into it, it's always moving.
That's a beautiful way to put it. A river.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder, if we're always changing, then what does it even mean to say, this is me?
That's such a C2 level question.
It's not meant to be intimidating. It's just something that happens when you've lived long enough to see yourself transform.
I think what remains constant might not be specific traits, but perhaps a certain pattern, a tone, a way of perceiving the world.
That makes sense. Like a melody that stays recognizable even if the rhythm changes.
Yes, the core feeling remains even as the details shift.
Do you ever look back at your younger self and feel almost like you're remembering another person?
Often. And sometimes I feel tenderness toward that version of me. Other times, a little distance.
Distance in what way?
As if I can see his limitations clearly now, his fears, his rigid thinking, things that felt like absolute truths at the time.
I know that feeling. At 20, everything feels definitive.
Yes, very final, like decisions are irreversible.
But time slowly teaches you that almost nothing is as fixed as it seems.
Time humbles certainty.
I like that. It does. Certainty feels strong when you're young, but with time, you realize how much you didn't know.
And how much you still don't know.
Exactly. There's something liberating about that, though.
In not knowing?
Yes, when you accept that life is an unfolding process rather than a finished structure, you stop trying to control every outcome.
That's interesting. So time, instead of being an enemy, becomes a collaborator.
I think so. It becomes something you move with, not something you fight against.
But that's not easy, especially in a culture that constantly reminds us that we're running out of time.
Oh, yes, that narrative is everywhere.
By a certain age, you should have this, you should be that, you should have achieved something measurable.
As if life were a checklist.
Exactly.
I sometimes wonder how much of our anxiety about time is actually social pressure rather than genuine personal urgency.
That's a profound question.
Because if no one were watching, would we still feel so rushed?
I'm not sure. I think there's a biological awareness of mortality that we all carry. But the panic, that might be amplified by comparison.
Comparison accelerates time emotionally.
What do you mean?
When you compare yourself to someone else, suddenly your own timeline feels inadequate. You compress your life into milestones and judge it.
That's very true. Social media intensifies that.
Yes, you see curated highlights of other people's lives, and you interpret them as linear progress.
When in reality, their lives are probably just as messy and non-linear as yours.
Exactly. But the illusion of smooth progress can make you feel behind.
And feeling behind creates a sense of lost time.
Even if you're exactly where you need to be.
That phrase, where you need to be, do you really believe that?
Not in a deterministic sense. I don't think everything is pre-written, but I do believe that growth has its own pace.
So forcing it doesn't necessarily accelerate it.
No, in fact, forcing it can distort it.
That makes sense. When you rush a process, you sometimes skip the reflection that would have deepened the experience.
Yes, and then the lesson returns later, often in a more uncomfortable form.
That's almost poetic.
It's painfully true sometimes.
I've noticed that certain patterns in my life repeat until I genuinely change something internally.
Time gives you opportunities to notice patterns,
And sometimes it gives you the same opportunity multiple times.
which can be frustrating.
Very. You think, I already dealt with this.
But maybe you only understood it intellectually, not emotionally.
That's a powerful distinction. Understanding versus integration.
Yes, time allows integration. It allows experiences to settle into your nervous system.
I like that. Not just in your mind, but in your body.
Exactly. Change isn't always visible. Sometimes it's subtle. You react differently to something that once triggered you.
And you realize later that you've grown.
Growth often reveals itself in hindsight,
That's true. In the moment, it can feel stagnant.
or even regressive.
Yes, sometimes change feels like loss before it feels like expansion.
That's such an important point. We often romanticize change, but it frequently involves grieving,
Grieving who you were.
or grieving a dream that no longer fits.
Letting go of old identities can feel destabilizing.
Because even if they were limiting, they were familiar.
Familiarity feels safe.
Yes, even discomfort can feel safe if it's predictable.
So time invites us into unfamiliar territory again and again.
And the invitation isn't always gentle.
No, sometimes it's abrupt, a sudden event, a loss, a transition you didn't choose.
Those moments can redefine you.
They can fracture the narrative you had about your life.
And then you have to reconstruct meaning.
That process can take years.
It can, and it rarely follows a straight line.
I think one of the most difficult aspects of time is that it doesn't pause when we need it to.
Yes, even when you're overwhelmed, it keeps moving.
There's no suspension.
But maybe that's also a kind of mercy.
How so?
Because pain that feels permanent in the present eventually softens simply because time passes.
That's comforting.
It doesn't erase it, but it changes its texture.
That's beautifully said. It changes its texture.
Yes, something sharp becomes less sharp.
And something distant sometimes becomes nostalgic.
Nostalgia is interesting. It's like time filtered through emotion.
It idealizes the past.
Often, we forget the complexity and remember the warmth.
Do you think nostalgia helps us or traps us?
Both. It can anchor us, remind us of who we've been, but it can also prevent us from fully inhabiting the present.
So it's a delicate balance.
Like most things.
I've been thinking lately about how different decades of life seem to have different themes,
That's intriguing. What do you mean by themes?
almost like chapters. In one period, you're focused on proving yourself. In another, you're focused on understanding yourself.
I love that distinction. Proving versus understanding.
And maybe later, accepting.
Acceptance feels like a quieter goal.
Yes, less performative, more internal.
Do you think people become wiser with time?
Not automatically. Time offers experience, but reflection transforms experience into wisdom.
So awareness is the key variable.
I think so. Without reflection, time just accumulates events.
That's profound. Time as accumulation versus time as integration.
I like how you phrase that.
Thank you.
I sometimes fear wasting time,
In what sense?
spending years on something that doesn't ultimately matter.
But how do we measure what matters?
That's the dilemma. In retrospect, even detours can shape us in meaningful ways.
Yes, a path that seemed irrelevant at the time might have prepared you for something later.
So perhaps nothing is entirely wasted.
Maybe wasted time is just time we don't yet understand.
That reframes it beautifully.
I think part of maturity is trusting that life is not linear progress, but layered experience.
Layered. That's a rich word.
Yes, you don't replace previous versions of yourself, you build on them,
Even the flawed ones.
especially the flawed ones.
I appreciate that perspective. It feels compassionate.
Time can make you softer if you let it.
Or harder.
True, it depends on how you respond to what happens.
So perhaps change isn't only what time does to us, but what we choose to do with time.
That sounds like a quiet responsibility.
It is.
And also a quiet freedom.
I like that. Responsibility and freedom intertwined.
Time will move regardless, but within that movement, we still have agency.
Agency within impermanence.
Yes,
That might be the paradox of being human.
living in something that is constantly shifting while still trying to live intentionally.
Maybe that's why conversations like this matter.
Because they slow us down?
Yes, they allow us to observe rather than just react.
I'm glad we had this one. It feels reflective without being heavy.
I agree.
And maybe that's the essence of time and change, not something to solve, just something to notice.
To notice and to participate in consciously.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, to everyone listening, thank you for spending your time with us today.
Yes, thank you. We really appreciate that you chose to sit with us for this conversation.
If this episode felt meaningful, you can always listen again or explore other conversations here on Soft English Podcast, an easy way to learn English.
We hope this was calm and thoughtful to listen to.
Take care of yourself.
And we'll talk to you next time.